we would like to work with you regarding a concept that we utilize that creates a rejuvenation effect on our bodies. As our bodies age, the telomere gene, as you know, extends or it recedes, and we tend to age. Well, he said, we do not have an aging problem on our world. So Gandhi, who looked to be like in his mid-20s at the latest, looked to be very youthful, and yet he told George that he was like 2,400 years of age in Earth years. So he said they wanted to create an opportunity for Earth beings to have access to this technology for rejuvenation, and also could be used for time travel. So they told George, we will begin communicating with you and give you the designs for this building that he was told would be called the Integratron. So you can go on to the next slide, Linda. This is an image of the early construction of the Integratron. Soganta had told him that this device was to be built without any metal at all. It's made out of wood, it's made out of concrete, and it's made out of a space age composition that Westinghouse had developed in the 50s for satellites. So that was all incorporated into the design and the construction of the Integratron. And the Integratron was built with private donations from people because George's idea was to have this open and free to the public. And he also had an idea for having a college of universal wisdom all around this Integratron with an observatory, with buildings that would be partially underground, so it would reflect the heat of the day off of the ground, and create a conditions where people could come and learn and grow in knowledge and wisdom. Now, he had also been told, and I never validated this myself, but the center part of the Integratron, if you drew a line through the Earth to the other side of the planet, it would connect to the center point of the Great Pyramid of Giza. These two devices were linked energetically, okay? You can go on to the next image. This is how the Integratron looked before they painted it. And again, this is made with all wood, okay? It's 4 stories tall. It's 55 feet in diameter. Each of the sections, it's made up of 16 sections. And what's interesting about this design is the wood and the way that the wood overlaps to form the dome. George Van Tassel had gotten the idea for this working with Howard Hughes. Before Howard Hughes had built the Spruce Goose, he built another all-wood plane that was called G2. And George Van Tassel learned from working on that plane project with Howard Hughes that this would be a very good way of tying together these different segments of the dome. And again, it's 16 segments, and around the outer edge of the dome happens to represent 64 diodes. And these diodes were to spin, creating an electrostatic charge. And the device itself was going to be the world's largest negative ion machine. You've heard of negative ion machines, which tend to eliminate negative aspects, negative energy to clean the air. Well, this was going to be generating trillions and trillions of negative ions to bombard the body and to create a rejuvenation effect. You can go on to the next slide. This is George with a cutaway image of how the dome looks on the outside and how it would be constructed on the inside. Now, what's very interesting is the top part of the dome was going to have affixed to it an armature, and the armature would slowly rotate inside of the dome. And as it's rotating, and those 64 diodes are rotating around the base of the dome, they would create that negative ionization effect. And you can go on to the next slide.
Fascinating.
Okay, this is an image of the dome when it was completed, but the wiring was not completed in it. And George had set up an antenna there to receive information and to receive signals, because he was communicating with shortwave radio with individuals, and also they were receiving messages from the Starcraft as they were in the area, they would send information to George, and he would receive information. And he published a little newsletter called Proceedings. It was called Proceedings from the College of Universal Wisdom. Go ahead. You can go on to the next slide. Okay. This is an early image taken when the Integratron was being completed, and these starcraft are actually cloud formations of lenticular clouds, which actually house and cloak saucers. So this was a photograph that George had taken and made available through his publication Proceedings for people to see. You can go on to the next one.
Beautiful.
This is an image of a star angel that George said materialized over the top of the dome, and took this photograph and shared this. It's a beautiful, beautiful image.
Yes, I love that.
You can go on to the next one. It's beautiful. This is an early photograph taken again in the 50s, and this shows a craft very similar to the craft that Soganda landed and was behind him when he met George Van Tassel for the first time. And there's been a lot of UFO activity in that area in the Mojave, but this is a remarkable photograph. And if you can make that larger, people could see a little bit more of the detail of the craft.
Very clear. I mean, it's probably one of the clearest photos I've ever seen of
Yes.
the craft.
And the thing is, well, these are like Billy Mier's photos as well, and they've all been verified.
Yes.
Because remember, they didn't have CG. We think today, oh, you could fake that. That's no big deal. But they didn't have that capability back then. What year was this, Frank? Roughly,
Probably about 58, maybe 59.
There's no way you could do that. They didn't have CGI back then.
No, I mean, that is really crystal clear. You could probably make it a little bit larger and see a little bit more detail to the dome and underneath.
Starts to get pixelated, but yes, you can. It looks like a bell almost.
Yeah,
and you can see now up close that, if we
Completely.
negative or something, but you can even see with this the way you want to see the way the light hits it.
Yes.
And how it sits in the picture frame. Because if they were going to fake something like this in the late 1950s, it would be fairly obvious.
Yeah.
But this, if you take a look at this, it's really integrated into the photo. So if the negatives were available, like I said, and this is similar to what Billy Mier had presented, and recently through technology, we've been able to deduce that those things weren't. There's no way they could fake them in those days. Now we could probably fake them today, but they weren't.
Yes.
So even though it might look strange to people, but that's more than likely authentic.
Yes. And again, it's a remarkable photograph. And again, he published these in his little newsletter called Proceedings. And a lot of these photos people have never seen before. And I'm happy to be able to put them all together and be able to share them with your audience and with your group.
Yeah, I've never seen this one. That's
No, that's yeah.
Now, this is a remarkable photograph. Giant rock where George had lived underneath of it. And it's not too far away from where the Integratron was constructed. It's probably about maybe a half mile away. George started to have conventions there in 1954, and he would bring in contactees from all over the United States that had experiences with meeting people from the stars. And at one of these meetings, and these would draw like 10,000 people from all around the country back in the 50s. And a good friend of both myself and my brother, Simon, his name is Gabriel Green, we would visit him out in the desert, and he would have taken photos and footage of all these events that occurred back there. Well, at this one Giant Rock convention, a county sheriff happened to be there and was taking a photograph. And when he took the photograph, this craft materialized and showed up in the image. And it's real. It was taken by a county sheriff, and it's not falsified. It's not doctored. That is a huge craft.
Yeah.
See if you could zoom in on it a little bit, Linda.
Wow.
It's probably maybe 300 or 400 feet in diameter. It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And what's interesting is when he took the photograph, the people in the foreground didn't even notice that a craft had materialized there. So it was like the craft and the beings wanted this county sheriff to take this photograph. And you could see the cars in the parking lot. And it's really in the parking lot. It's just a desert. It's the edge of the Mojave. And
like it's daytime, right?
It was daytime, yes. But it's generating so much energy and so much light.
Wow.
Those Giant Rock conventions were amazing because people who had contact experience would come there, share their experiences. If they had any photos, they would share the photos and share their stories. And again, these were all individuals who were meeting visitors who look just like us, who were coming here and visiting the planet and trying to awaken us to the concept of we're part of a star family, cosmic family.
Yes. Thank you for sharing these. This is amazing.
Hey, this is another early image of the Integratron, and you could see the trough around it. The trough around it was going to contain water. So when the positive energy was stripped off the bodies of the people who would be going in there, the positive energy would be dissipated in that trough of water, and it would be just absorbed into the earth. It would be like neutralizing the positive ions coming off the people, and it would be dissipated in the water, and it would have no negative effect on the ground or anything like that. So this was so well thought out. It's really remarkable. It really is. You can go on to the next one. Okay, this is a picture of George Van Tassel in front of a sign that used to be there about his work with the Integratron. There was a time machine that it could be used for anti-gravity. That was for rejuvenation and health benefits. And again, all the funds that came in for this device were all contributions. And George started to get a lot of hassles from the government in regards to the FDA was looking into what it was he was trying to do, because the lobbyists in the pharmaceutical industry were trying to prevent a concept like this from coming into realization, because the lobbyists wanted the people to continue to use pharmaceuticals, not to use an energy source for rejuvenation and for overcoming disease and overcoming basically death.
Absolutely. No, they wouldn't be able to make money off of that.
Now, this is an image of underneath the floor of the dome of the Integratron. And if you could zoom in on the right-hand side, you'll see the incredible matrix of wiring that George Van Tassel and his two son-in-laws, Daniel Boone and Norm Paulson, helped him to do. I mean, it's really, really incredible. It's like a spider web, and they were told the exact distance that each one of the copper wires had to be from one another, and it had to form like a circle, but all the circles contributed to the buildup of energy that was going to be generated by the dome. And if you can go on to the next one, you'll see another detailed image of that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a very good picture.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, the amount of time that went into this and the time of detail to be able to string this as precisely as they have is absolutely remarkable. And again, they were all donating their time to do this.
I don't even like to change the strings of my guitar, so
I know. How would that spin?
Yes.
That wouldn't spin. That did not spin. That was stationary.
I was stationary.
But the diodes are around the bottom of the dome, not at the base, not at the ground level, but at the base of the dome would spin, and the energy that would be picked up by the armature and also by the spinning of the diodes would have an effect on these wires underneath the floor that would help to create this full negative ionization, and the body would be bathed into it. They said you'd only have to go in there for a 5-minute period, and you couldn't wear any metal inside of the building. The building, you had to wear, no metal eyelets, no metal belt buckles, nothing like that. And George said that a person would only have to come there once every 35 years, and it would roll back the clock on aging and completely eliminate disease. And it was going to be open to the public. And the Giant Rock Airport would be probably upgraded to a facility that could accommodate more modern planes, because it's huge. That dry lake bed must be 10, maybe 12 miles long. I mean, it's like an enormous bowl.
Wow.
Go ahead, Linda. You can go on to the next. Go ahead.
Like, it looks like people lived in here. So did he live in here, or?
No, he used that for research. He would do research, and he would keep notes, and he would get information from our friends from upstairs, and they would help him to fine tune what it was that was being done here.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Now this is the top of the dome, okay? And you could see how the panels fit together so beautifully. I mean, it's just really, really remarkable. And from the inside and the outside, don't those windows almost look like portholes, like you're inside a ship?
Yes.
Yeah.
It really does. It really does. To see the building in a desert, it's like seeing something that doesn't belong on this planet. It looks like an off-planet structure. And the armature was going to fit into the center part of that opening, okay? And it would gradually go around the inside of those wood panels. And as it would be going around, it would be creating a negative ionization effect. And the energy would also be coming up from the floor, okay, where those wires were underneath the wood floor. And the diode spinning on the outside would be dissipating the electrostatic charge of the positive ions that were being stripped off the body. And the body would be filled with all these negative ions. And from what I understand, this is a concept that they use on many, many planets, the negative ionization effect to create rejuvenation and longevity. And some of the beings had ages at 3,000, 3,500, 4,000 years of age, and they look to be in their mid-20s.
Amazing.
It really is.
What is this right here? This part?
There are chairs there. The people who purchased this from the Van Tassel family, the wiring inside was never completed. There was supposed to be wiring on the inside panels of those 16 different segments. And I have a story about that I'll share with you a little bit later on. But now the people who bought it, they create sound baths there. So people go in there and they do meditation and they have sound baths with bowls. And the energy in there, the acoustics are pitch perfect. When I was inside of it, you could hear like a pin drop. The acoustics are so perfect. And you can see the sunlight coming in the dome. Isn't that beautiful?
You could see, yeah. It almost looks like dust.
That's really beautiful.
Wow.
Have they ever thought about? Yeah. Have they ever thought about finishing it and using it?
Well, we're going to get to that.
Oh,
yeah. We're jumping ahead.
Yeah. Well, you know me.
That's all right. This image of the Integratron in the foreground and in the background is called Goat Mountain. And Doris Van Tassel, George's wife, told me that FBI agents and other intelligence agency operatives would be on top of that mountain with telescopes and with binoculars, recording everything that the Van Tassels were doing with the construction of this facility. Wow. And believe it or not, they actually opened up an FBI file on him like he was a subversive. He was not a subversive. He was working with our Star family to bring a gift to us that they had wanted us to have as a gift that will create a lot of benefit to our planet. And it's like they didn't want that to happen.
They didn't know. They most certainly did not. He was probably one of the, they would have seen him as one of the worst subversives. I mean, that would have been.
I really love this. I love how the full moon is lined up with it. Like, yeah, that's awesome. Now,
not in this photograph, but if you can go back to that other one, the previous one, not that one. No, the one after it with the Goat Mountain.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
The right of the Integratron was George Van Tassel's home. It was a ranch type home, and it was all on one floor. And they had, in their living room, they had bow windows looking out towards the Integratron and towards the Mojave Desert. It was really beautiful. But that's not in this photograph. But I just want to tell you that because there's a story associated with that a little later. Go ahead. You can go on to the next one.
Wow. This is beautiful.
This is the Integratron at night. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Now, Andrew, doesn't that look like it doesn't belong here?
No, it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, it looks like a drawing or a painting.
Or
I know.
It kind of almost looks like an observatory or like, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love all the stars. It must have been amazing to look at all the stars out there.
You can't imagine how beautiful it is there at nighttime. The image of the Milky Way out there is so extraordinary, and you'll see a photograph of that a little later on. Now look at this in a blue hue. Isn't it remarkable?
Yeah.
I mean, that is just so beautiful. It really is.
Yes.
Almost every photograph of that is really, truly remarkable. And it's what it does is it nudges consciousness and it wants you to know more about what it is that they wanted to gift us with and how it could benefit us.
It almost looks like a planet with a ring around it.
No, I know. It does. This is a photograph of it during electrical storms. They get a lot of electrical storms out there, not a lot of rain, but a lot of energy from the electrical storms. And this is a remarkable photograph I wanted to share with you.
They look like paintings. You can't believe that's a real
Now,
photo.
they do. They really do.
It almost looks like Tesla, like
I was Tesla. Yeah.
Well, you're absolutely right, because Tesla's energy in his works correspond with George Van Tassel's Integratron, because it creates scalar waves. And on the left is an image of scalar waves that Tesla had drawn and used in his own work. And Van Tassel had studied the work at Tesla and incorporated some of those energy concepts into the Integratron, and of course with the assistance of our friends from upstairs. But how the light comes in from the portals, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
What is this part right here? What does this signify?
What are you pointing at?
These like it looks like ripples, and then it's got these.
Oh yeah, that's part of the scalar waves. That the Integratron generates those kinds of scalar waves.
Okay, so that's what they look like.
That's what they look like. Yes, that's an artist's rendition of how the scalar waves would look, and how Tesla's his Tesla coil would generate energy. And you'll see a photograph. Somebody set up a Tesla coil outside of the Integratron, and it's a remarkable photograph.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
Wow.
I mean,
cool.
you could just hear it crackling, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, Tesla coils could generate billions of volts of energy, but the Integratron would create trillions of negative ions. It's really remarkable, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. Now, this is an image of the Milky Way at night, and that orange glow was a reflection of the sky at sunset just before it was getting dark, and you could see the Milky Way. It's really, really remarkable.
So it's just
Now,
like that's a natural light right there that's on it. It's not like
light, yeah. There's no artificial light at all. It's all natural light. I mean, you could